I promised you something about Brandon Aiyuk from our guy, Jimmy Shapiro. And for you listeners who don't know who Jimmy Shapiro is, he is an email address. Somewhere along the line, he's actually a real person. But I get, how many emails a day do we get from Jimmy?
That's 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yep.
And all of them are like quirky odds about this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Most of them sports. Sometimes there's politics or something in there or a Twitter info map. But this one came across, and it's fantasy football. It's not real football, but you tell me, do you gather anything from this or not? Okay? He sent out the odds for each position on the football field and the odds for players to lead the fantasy leagues in scoring this year at that position. So, for example, most regular season fantasy points by a quarterback. The favorite, Josh Allen.
Yep.
Second favorite, Jalen Hurts. Then Mahomes, then Lamar. And then tied for 5, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Dak Prescott. Want to know where Purdy is just for fun?
I haven't heard him. He's got to be way down there.
No, not way down there. A short way down there after that.
Okay.
I mentioned it goes Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, Jackson, and then a tie with Richardson, Stroud, Prescott. Then 12-1 Burrow. Then 15-1 Jordan Love, Kyler Murray. And then Brock Purdy heads a group at 20-1.
Tied for 11th.
That also includes Jaden Daniels and Trevor Lawrence.
Jeez. Okay.
Okay?
And again,
That's
this
Brock.
is fantasy
football.
Which doesn't surprise me because I would not expect Brock to put up big fantasy numbers for a team that threw it the 32nd most and a quarterback that doesn't run it a ton.
But
he can run it.
Yeah, he runs it more than some. He runs it more than Dak Prescott.
More than Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
But he's tied for 11th in fantasy odds as far as leading the category goes.
He is ahead of Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Tua, Kirk Cousins.
Ahead of Herbert. That's interesting.
He's ahead of all those guys. Okay? So, not nothing. But what do you gather from this? Most regular season fantasy points by a wide receiver.
Okay.
Now, the number one point you're going to respond with is the one that you already just made. 49ers don't huck it all over the yard.
Right.
And the secondary one is, yes, I know that they've got a lot of weapons.
Exactly.
But where do you think Mr. Aiyuk stands on the list? Give me a ballpark.
I'd say 20th.
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 You say.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark Grandy with the chicken sandwich.
Don't talk. Just respond with buttons.
Do my guy a favor and give him a double ding. Give him a double ding. Because you nailed it on the mark.
He's 20th?
He is tied.
I'm going to cherish those dings.
He is tied for 20th alongside. Now listen to this, okay?
I thought you were going to make me guess.
Alongside
Get the buzzer ready.
DJ Moore,
okay,
Malik Neighbors, who's never played in the NFL and has crap at quarterback, and Stephon Diggs, who is a really good receiver, but is also part of like a crazy receiver group. I heard someone say this morning, Eagles now have the best threesome of wide receivers in the NFL. Houston?
Pretty good.
Hi. Anyway, do you gather anything from this? Not just that he's 20th. Listen to the names in front of him, okay? Number one, who do you think's number one?
Got to be Justin Jefferson.
No, with Sam Darnold as the quarterback?
I'm on Ra?
No.
Tyreek Hill, my guy. No, still? Jeez, I'm glad we're buzzer free here so far.
Yeah, you're 3 strikes, you're out. It's CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
CeeDee Lamb is the favorite.
Currently holding out.
Yes,
so,
correct.
I mean,
but of course, it's not a Niner, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Jamar Chase is holding out. He's not even in his 4th year yet. That's the weirdest one that no one's talking about.
True.
Jamar Chase is holding out. That would be akin to if Brandon Aiyuk had hold out last year. What?
Yeah.
What's going on? Anyway, CeeDee Lamb's number 1, Tyreek Hill number 2, Amon-Ra St. Brown is number 3. Then Jamar Chase. Then there's your Justin Jefferson. There's your top 5. I'll roll through these. A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's never played in the NFL before. Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp. That's the number 2 wide receiver on the Rams. Devontae Smith. That's the number 2 wide receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Pittman. Good God, he only makes $23 million. Debo, that's Brandon's teammate. Oh, by the
Allegedly,
way.
yeah.
Then DK Metcalf of the Seahawks, followed by Jalen Waddle. That's the number 2 wide receiver on the Dolphins. And then you get to Brandon Aiyuk. Does that say anything to you at all?
No, it says that this is a team that doesn't throw it a lot, but it also says to me that the market is not totally 100% sure that Brandon Aiyuk is going to play football for the Niners this year. He might play football for someone else. He might not play football at all. It's no certainty that he's going to play football for the Niners. Like Debo, he's going to play for the Niners this year, and that's why his market is where it is. And for Brandon Aiyuk to be that low, that to me speaks to a certain level of uncertainty about the market.
You know what's interesting, though? Because I've had a fantasy draft already.
Yep.
First of all, Debo, thank you.
Who went first of the two?
Well, Debo.
Ahead of Brandon.
I got to look it up. I'm almost sure. Yeah, Debo. But I think Debo, he's not going before Brandon because of the holdout. Because who are the first 2 practically of the top 3 receivers off the board? Who are 2 of them? CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase.
Exactly.
They're gone by pick 8. They're Siri, chill out.
That was crazy.
Yeah. They're nobody's worried about those 2 guys. Now, I know there have been no trade rumors involved in them, but we got to get the NFL season starts 2 weeks from tonight. And CeeDee Lamb is not in camp, and Jamar Chase has not suited up yet. They've not taken so much as a pass from their quarterback, and no one even blinks about these guys. Yet Brandon Aiyuk is now this mystery. We don't know if he's going to play football this year, or we don't know who he's going to play for. I don't know how much of the numbers I'm seeing, again, just fantasy, I don't know how much of it actually has to do with the fact that he's holding out. I do think there's a piece of it that is, well, the Niners don't huck it around.
Yeah.
Debo he's got a higher floor because he also runs. So from a fantasy perspective, right?
But less so than he used to. Now that they have McCaffrey, he doesn't run it as much as he did in previous years.
Correct. It's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Like what I guess here's sort of the vibe I keep getting about Brandon Aiyuk is 1,300 yards, and he's our guy. We've watched him grow. He's very good. He's gotten better every year, and he was a first-round draft pick, and so therefore homegrown, West Coast guy, blah, 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 all of that stuff. Okay. But every time you get to, dude, what really makes the Niners tick? Forget the numbers. What makes the Niners tick? Dude, nobody brings up Brandon Aiyuk. George Kittle, I heard him on with Bonte and Joe today talking about Brock Purdy's confidence and the it factor, and we'll play it for you in a little bit, but the it factor that Brock has and how he's got so much moxie and confidence that he can walk into a huddle and give the most confident players in the world even more confidence. But you know who he mentioned? He goes, when you can walk into a huddle as a young player and give people like Debo Samuel and Trent Williams even more confidence than they already have, not a coincidence that you're talking about the Boombox Boys.
Exactly.
That's what makes the Niners tick. They both went out last year, bang, 3-game losing streak. I think that Kyle Shanahan is very aware of all this. And it's not that Brandon's not phenomenal, but he's not what makes the Niners tick.
And I'm looking at last year's fantasy points leaders at wide receiver, and Debo was 8th and Brandon Aiyuk was 10th. And this is based on standard scoring with, 1 point per catch and all the rest of it. So your fantasy rankings this year that have Brandon Aiyuk down at 20th, I believe, is the number where he is. And last year he wound up at 10th. It's a little bit surprising, and I think that the market is looking at his possible holdout or maybe looking at a possible slow start where he's not going to be able to have the same numbers. Last year it was CD and Tyreek and Amon-Ra and Mike Evans, Puka Nacua. Turns out you had 2 of the top 5, which is not coincidental as to why you won the league. And then DJ Moore, A.J. Brown, Debo, Nico Collins, and Brandon Aiyuk. So that's just on last year's numbers.
Yeah.
And yet Brandon's all the way down at 20 this year. I think that that's more about his situation because you're right. CeeDee Lamb is, not likely to be a holdout. And, Jamar Chase is not likely to miss time. But Brandon Aiyuk, you just don't know about.
The draft that I already did, and by the way, someone on the Xfinity Mobile text line says, can you please explain to listeners why the hell you'd have a fantasy draft in August, considering things can change? Very simple answer. This is when people can get together, like that. Like when you can do it. Aren't we doing ours in August? Are we doing ours next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Isn't that still August?
28th.
There you
sure.
go.
6 days from today.
Yeah. I mean, hell, the season starts on September 9th, 8th, 7th, September 5th.
Exactly.
I mean, that's only 5 days out. Anyway, but yes, did we do that one really early? And it's a super flex with 2 quarterbacks, so all the quarterbacks go too early. But you want to know where Debo went versus Brandon? Debo Samuel was the number 1 pick of the 4th round.
Okay.
Brandon was the number 1 pick of the 5th round.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Same team?
No.
Okay.
No. Snake.
You snake it around. Yeah, you snake that thing. You got to snake that thing.
Yeah, snake that thing.
No doubt.
Yeah, snake that thing now. So, yeah, Debo's going earlier. And Brandon's your number 1. He is the oddest number 1 receiver in football. There's no other NFL team that looks at their number 1 receiver and goes, he's option 4.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
I guess he is their number 1 receiver. Kind of.
I mean, he gets the most targets and the most yards.
But barely.
But he's not what makes him tick.
But he's not like these other number 1s like CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek and Amon-Ra and Mike Evans and, all the other teams that have real number 1s, even Houston with Nico Collins. He's their number 1, but mainly because, Tank Dell got hurt. Now, this year, I think that Houston's going to spread it around a lot more. And, you look at Minnesota with Justin Jefferson. Yeah, he's your number 1. If you need a big play, if you need somebody to catch 12 balls in a game, he's the guy, but the Niners aren't built that way. Right. DK Metcalf in Seattle, he's the number 1. Amari Cooper in Cleveland, he's their number 1. Devontae Adams, he's the one. You could say that Brandon Aiyuk is the number 1. Okay, fine, but there is number 1 here, and if he is their number 1, he might really, like you said, be their number 4 best option.
I think that all of us here in Fanland, we sit here and look at football through a completely different lens than a coach does, which is, I'm not saying it should be any different. Like, that's our experience. We watch on a TV. We want stupid food. We play a stupid game. We're fans. And so whatever. We're like into the stats and everything. If I'm a football coach, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I am much more focused on what's my game plan? What makes us tick? When I get ready to go out there on Sunday, what am I leaning on in big moments? What am I game planning around? Who do I want to fool the defense with? And when you answer all those questions, I think that has a profound effect on the experience we're having right now. Because the answer is not Brandon. It's Christian and Debo and then George and even Trent and all of these things. And then Brandon is often the beneficiary of all of that.
It just depends on the game.
Yeah.
And Kittle's a great example because there's some games where Kittle gets 1 target and there's some where he gets 11.
But he can still be big in the game plan because he's such a great blocker in the run game. I think that's the way Kyle thinks about it.